In 1908, an architect named Adolf Loos released one of the most controversial documents, not knowing that he would influence hundreds of architects for a whole century. Ornament is a crime.
The greatest menace to architecture is decoration and ornamentation.
Decoration is suited to simple races, peasants, and savages.
We should abstain entirely from doing decorative work for a period of years.
All the architects declared war against ornament, and they announced that all traditional styles are null and void. They no longer admired Michelangelo or the Gothic cathedrals, but they were stunned by airplanes, automobiles, and industrial machines. But why did they reject beauty? And what was so wrong with the centuries of ornament in a building to make it feel alive? Or to understand, we need to go back, because this aesthetic revolution did not happen by chance, but it was driven by two main factors. First, the rise of technology. The new materials hit the scene: concrete, glass, and iron, and that allowed architects to go higher, stretch longer, and bend their buildings the way they wanted. The second factor was capitalism, and the birth of a middle class that could offer things that previously only the rich could afford. They clamored for more and more elaborate decoration. Well, the sophisticated observers were not happy about this excessive demand, that the only possible cure seemed to be a violent reaction in favor of simplicity, which would be a vital component of the coming modernism. The modern architect needed something to make their new style feel legit, so they took an old idea and gave it a twist: the honesty. They defined it in three ways: the honesty of materials, the honesty of structure, and the honesty in how a building's form reflects its function. It was considered as truthful and honest to show materials in their natural state, dishonest to disguise them, and it was truthful to express a building's structure on the outside, dishonest to hide it behind decorative elements. And it was truthful and honest to design a building in a way that reflects its function, dishonest to have a building look like something it wasn't, even though it's highly debatable whether they succeeded in this respect. This is not how the previous generation of architects defined the honesty. John James Stevenson argues in his book House Architecture that while truth is essential, as architecture, just like art, must also be artistic. This means they shouldn't simply display structure on materials in an unorganized and unrefined way, and there is no need to highlight mundane functional elements like plumbing, for example, unless they contribute to the building's overall artistic expression. But here's where things get interesting. This need for a moral force is very inspired by the Protestant ethic that attributes moral values to non-moral activities such as hard work and frugality. They believe that the goals of a simple life was self-denial, which is one of the signs of devotion to God. And it was sinful to be devoted and concerned only by the spiritual world, or exclusively devoted to the material world. The same way, a modernist linked simplicity to honesty, and honesty to beauty. Marc-Antoine Lougier, a French priest and philosopher, criticized architectural excesses in his 1753 book, advocating for a return to simplicity and to what he considered a natural architectural form.
All the splendors of architecture come from the principles that guided the construction of the primitive hut. Architecture owes all that is perfect in its art to a single source. To bring together the dispersed branches of art, one must go back to this primitive simplicity, rejecting everything that is not of necessity.
This ethic gave them self-righteousness that led them to assume that their own attitudes and values were proper for others, regardless of class, race, or culture. The modern architect's personal vision is infused with a sense of moral superiority. Le Corbusier said that decoration is suited to simple races, peasants, and savages. This view, as if he were surveying the rest of humanity from on high, is a legacy of Western colonialism. Colonization of the world was not only regarded as economically advantageous, but as a moral act. By introducing the savage to our civilization, we raised him to a higher plane of existence. Capitalism, with its obsession with efficiency, played a crucial role in this architectural revolution. Functionalism, the idea that form should follow function, became the cornerstone of modern architecture. And if something did not have a practical purpose, it had no place in the design. And when it comes to the oversimplification of the form of a building, it was justified by efficiency. A modernist said,
Simple shapes better met practical needs, and ornaments were just unnecessary.
but here's the thing. Our ancestors always saw utility as a condition of beauty, but that did not mean they discarded ornamentation. Even the most functional sailing ships were fully decorated, proving that beauty and function did not have to be mutually exclusive. Traditional buildings offered layers of ornament, each on a smaller and smaller scale, keeping the eye constantly entertained and engaged. But with the modernist stripped-down architecture, the eye is seldom rewarded. And when comparing an older building to a modern one, from a distance, the traditional structure has a complicated silhouette and a rich surface, which invites the eye to come closer to discover more details, different materials, textures, and even window designs. Modern architecture did eventually develop its own simplified form of ornamentation, the building itself as an ornament, but it could be only appreciated from a large scale. To the modernists, machines were the new gods, and architects were enchanted by the new possibilities and forms offered by the machine, and they used the rejection to ornament as the main weapon to attack on traditional architecture. In his book Towards a New Architecture, Le Corbusier claimed that we should build our homes like machines, efficient, purposeful, and stripped of unnecessary decoration.
There is no shame in living in a house without a pointed roof, with walls as smooth as sheet iron, with windows like those of factories, and one can be proud of having a house as serviceable as a typewriter.
But as beautiful as they sound, it wasn't always practical. Flat roofs looked modern, but leaked, and open glass spaces were expensive to heat, and the maintenance was not exactly easy. The modern movement changed this expectation and made decoration non-essential and an extra. By doing this, the decorated building seemed to be more expensive. But this is not necessarily true. In 1935, and after 4 years from delivering his famous project Villa Savoy, Le Corbusier received several letters reciting some disastrous technical failings, and the family has even threatened taking recourse to legal actions. Madame Savoy wrote to Le Corbusier saying,
"It is raining in the hall, it's raining on the ramp, and the wall of the garage is absolutely soaked. It's still raining in my bathroom, which floods in bad weather, as the water comes in through the skylight. The gardener's walls are also wet through."
The modernists sought to create a perfect world, and for a while they captivated the world. But by stripping away the core, we stripped away character. And by idolizing simplicity, we sacrificed personality. Architects try to rationalize beauty, but the truth is, beauty itself is beyond reason.